Welcome to another Pneuma conversation, a raw, authentic, unfiltered conversation with spiritual teachers, leaders, coaches, healers, and seekers. Get to know who we truly are beyond the polished world of interviews, social media, and podcasts. We are human, we struggle too. Join us in real conversations that heal, transform, and inspire. These are the conversations that remind us what it means to be human. Today, we are in conversation with John Kotre. John, welcome to the conversation.
Good to be here. Nice to see you.
You as well, sir.
And the
Thank you.
world behind you there.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of fitting because I know we're going to get into some Teilhard stuff and your life and your work wraps around Teilhard, and we'll get there. I've already had some guests on the show about Teilhard, so my audience is not unfamiliar with Teilhard. But we'll get there. So, who is John? Tell us a little bit about you, where you grew up, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you mentioned some of those questions as we were getting corresponding on email. Who is John?
Yeah.
And we could talk about that just in terms of, as I think of self-defining life moments.
Hmm.
So, a lot of ways of thinking about a life. Um, And one of the ways is to say, well, what are the key moments in your life? Pick a half a dozen or so. So I'm ready with some moments, if you would like.
Perfect.
Um, I'll start with my earliest memory.
Okay.
Actually, I've collected thousands of earliest memories, by the way.
Okay.
But
Beautiful.
it's not that the moment was self-defining at the time. It was that looking back. It's very symbolic of who I am, who I came to be. So in the memory, this is Chicago. It would be, I don't know, in the early 40s. Maybe I'm 4 years old, something like that.
Okay.
And we're moving into a new apartment. And I'm with my sister, who's a couple of years older, and my dad. And we walk into this apartment. It's on the first floor, corner apartment. Seems big. It was actually pretty small. But we walk in the back door, and then there's the kitchen, and then there's the dining room. And there are two windows next to each other in the dining room. And I sit in one, and my sister sits in the other, or facing each other. And I'm saying, this is my window, and that's your window.
Okay.
And that's the memory.
Hmm.
Now, the idea of a life where I'm saying, this is your window, and this is my window. We each have different windows on reality,
Yeah.
but we each have our own window to look through. That's one of the meanings that I've put into the memory, of course, over the years. And that's one of them. The other is that, well, I slept in the dining room. I had a little cot that they pulled out every night. And in the summer, we put the cot next to the window. And at night, the street lights would be on and people would be walking by the window. And I watched them walking by the window. And as I put it now, walking at night, exchanging stories of the day. These were people on a walk. There were people on a journey. I've spent a lot of years trying to capture people on their journey.
Hmm.
And that's kind of symbolized for me by these people walking by the window that I'm looking out at night. So that is a who I am.
Yeah.
It most certainly is, and it's great because it captures it in an image. And of course, I've been very interested in what's called autobiographical memory too.
Okay.
And it's one of the things autobiographical memory does. It can find a pattern in a life and put it in the very beginning, at the beginning of the story, where it has the most impact, or it's like a creation story. So that would be yeah, that's a who I am.
It's beautiful. I feel connected with you on that because that's kind of what I'm trying to do here with the podcast.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. And I realize that you and I have been kind of doing the same thing, trying to capture
The rawness of humanity. Is that how you would say it?
stories from a life, stories of a life. Okay, here's now a story from late in life, if you want one.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So well, uh, I was, I entered the Jesuit seminary, at
Okay.
18, was 6 years in, then out, and then got a PhD in psychology. It was social psychology at the time. I didn't stick with that. Um, I uh, discovered the work of a fellow named Robert Coles,
Okay.
Harvard psychiatrist, who just got the stories of people,
Mm,
just get this. And then so I wanted to do what he did and that sort of. But anyway, as I was getting toward my retirement, teaching psychology at University of Michigan, mostly Dearborn campus, um, I said, I'm not a psychologist anymore. And then a few months later, I was saying, I never was a psychologist. And then I said, well, what were you? And what are you? And the best thing that I could come up with, and maybe the truest things, I'm a story guy.
mm,
And I all kinds of stories. It's yes, stories from a life, stories of a life, parables, teaching tales. And then, of course, the ultimate story, the basic story, the story of everything.
mm,
And and I'm just been interested in those things. And that sense of that's what I always was. I was always that from a beginning. And I'll rattle on for just a little something else here. But the feeling that I never was this and I always was this. I've written a book on autobiographical memory. I think always is the most interesting word in autobiographical memory. It started when I was working with transcripts of interviews because I was going to put them into a written story. Here was all people always say always, you know. I'm crossing it out just so it reads better.
mhm,
But what's the function of that word always, Like, gee, we went up this and we always swam out to the island. Maybe we did it two or three times.
yeah,
But what does always do? And one of the things always does is when people come to a new sense of self, a new sense of identity that really is them, there is this feeling that it was always there, but
mm,
I didn't know it.
okay.
If you asked them 20 years ago or 30 years ago if it was there, no. But if it's an identity that is yours, it feels like it was always there. And
Mm,
then I'll tell one more story. There's
yeah.
a research on Pacific Islanders who the historians or anthropologists knew moved at one point from this island to another island. The people themselves didn't have written language. So a few generations later, they were saying, we originated here on this new island. We were always here.
Mm,
That kind of symbolizes for me the function of this word always. And so my sense that, yeah, I've always been story guy.
okay. Was there was there something that happened in your life that got you intrigued with being with stories, or did you have some sort of awakening?
Well, I'll tell you a bit. So I was trained in social psychology mainly because I could get a fellowship there.
Hmm.
That wasn't me. And
Mm,
then I was at what's called the Institute for Social Research at Michigan, basically doing social psychology, and it wasn't working. And then I came across some writing by this Robert Coles. Now, if I remember right now, he had won a Pulitzer Prize, he was interviewing when it's school desegregation, getting the story from the girl who's walking into the school, getting the stories from the people who are shouting at her, just getting their stories.
Mm.
And he had written a book on Eric Erickson, the
Yeah.
developmental psychologist, his 8 stages of life, you know. And like I said, this is it. This is what I want to do. So I kind of imitated him by doing a book on a priest sociologist named Andrew Greeley. And Coles was great. I've never met the man. I've never talked to the man, but Greeley kind of set it up. I sent him the manuscript that was going along. He just typed back a little note of encouragement. And he ended up writing an introduction to the book. He ended up writing an introduction to other books.
Mm.
And I think he did this for a lot of young people.
Okay.
But just an amazing figure. And so that's where it was. It was just seeing that work and saying, I he's getting the story. That's it.
Yeah. So it's always been something that's been a part of you, and then you saw different things that you with other people, and you connected. Go, yeah, that's what I want.
Well, it was just him.
Yeah. Hey, just
I,
him.
you
Okay.
know, and I really did a lot of. If you want to pursue this, well, um, I think. Well, I'll back up some more if you want. I mean,
Yeah.
so in psychology in the 1970s, there was a movement towards self-fulfillment and self-actualization. This is Carl
Yep.
Rogers and Becoming a Person, which was an important book for me, I have to say.
Okay.
And then Maslow, self-actualization. And I like this stuff because it was positive. I mean, maybe they'd call it flourishing today, but it was positive. And and it wasn't Freudian stuff and behaviorism, which didn't connect at all. I mean, well, Freud was interesting because it was interior life, but anyway, but after a while, I said, the self that I'm wanting to actualize and fulfill is going to die. So then what? So then
Mm.
I really got into something called generativity, which is a concept of Erik Erikson's, which he wrote very little about. And what about that now? And what about what I'm leaving behind? What am I creating? You know, what's going to be left? And so then I wrote, which probably would have, I really call my first self-defining book, it was called Outliving the Self.
Okay.
And it was the stories of 8 people, 4 men, 4 women, whose lives illustrated different facets of generativity. In a way, it was really kind of a beginning of what was called narrative psychology. Um, and that's a whole other spiel to get into the, the benefits of narrative and in trying to understand people. Typical, quote, scientific psychology, you find out what is generally true. You know, what percent of the time you don't know. But, you know, when I have a surgeon, I don't want the guy who just knows what's generally true. I want the guy or woman who knows what happens once every 5 years in case it's, you know. So to illustrate varieties of generative experience, like James's book, Varieties of Religious Experience. That's the whole idea.
Mm.
So in doing typical psychological research, you're looking for patterns. You're looking for repeats. When I was doing this, I was not looking for repeats. If this aspect of a generative experience was brought out by this person, I didn't want to repeat. I wanted another aspect to come out.
Mm. Okay.
And of course, the story you think you're going to get going into an interview in a series of, it ain't the one you come out with anyway.
Right.
You know, so I don't know what question I was answering there, but that's where I really that was getting that was getting lives into print. And then with this Seasons of Life thing came along, it was getting them into audio and video and print. And there's so many ways you can capture a life. So this work I've done with Teilhard de Chardin to follow up on a documentary film that was made of him. I've written 3 books, short books, which take different paths through his life. Very complex figure. One's called The Earth He Loved, one's The Women He Knew, one's The Story He Told. They also have kind of different audiences, if you will. But they're to get to know someone, there are different paths you can take through their life.
Yeah.
I mean, there's work, there's spirit, there's love, there's family, they're kind of different. I mean, the paths will cross,
Yeah.
but they're different paths you can take. And then the other thing I did with, and this is with Teilhard was, and I'm doing it with something else now too, um, moments in a life. I
Mm.
think that is such an interesting concept. If you
Yeah.
if you could tell the story of your life by picking out half a dozen moments, what would those moments be?
Wow.
It's interesting because sometimes a moment happens, and when it's happening, you know this is a moment.
Mm.
Other times, it's only when looking back. I mean, I think of this guy. I find myself standing next to at a convention. We start talking. That's where I am where I am. That's where I'm
Yeah.
doing what I'm doing. That's why I'm living where I'm living. You realize the significance looking back, but just tell me about 6 moments in your life. And that's not a bad way of telling a story. And also talking about a life. These Teilhard video moments, I've done it a couple of times with small groups now, and we just watch a moment for 5 minutes,
Yeah.
talk about it, then move on. Maybe in a Zoom session, we do 2 or 3, and it's just taking the life piece by piece.
Yeah. I never thought of it like that because I mean I'm doing the same thing. And
Yeah, I mean, I understand that. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So the moments of people's lives. It's like what makes you tick? Why do you do what you do? What's going on? What's your thought process? What's churning in your
that's it.
soul?
That's it. That's it. That's what I'm after.
Yes.
I
Yeah, yeah.
I said I was at the Jesuit seminary, and it's because I had some great teachers in high school who were Jesuits. I never wanted to be a priest. I think it was the teachers, and that's the appeal of the interior life. And that was the appeal of psychology. I wanted to get at the interior life.
Mm.
And I guess I did. But what I saw in interior life was narrative,
Mm,
and moments and things like that.
yeah.
So
So what led you to doing the work with Teilhard?
I can't say Teilhard was like a major influence in my life.
Okay.
Uh, it, it happened like this. Frank Frost is a guy who produced a PBS documentary on Teilhard.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
He
Yep.
and I were Jesuit seminarians together
Oh, okay.
zillion years ago.
So yeah, right.
It was at a 50th year anniversary that we met up again. And then there was a reunion. Then there was another one 4 years later, and he was starting on that. And I had just, I guess, finished something. And I said, well, gee, I've been here before with the PBS documentary. And then did a book to go with it. I said, maybe I could write a trade book to go with it or follow up with it or something like that. And that's how that began.
Okay.
Then it very quickly, I don't know why exactly, it turned into trying to do 3 books, shorter books. And then another thing I wanted to do, there's a Kindle. By the way, the books are out there, absolutely idle. There's been no publicity,
Okay.
but
I'll put
something,
them in the show notes.
yeah, it'll happen somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
But the Kindle ebook version, what I did was, for example, in the Earth book, well, if he's digging in the Gobi Desert, we link the Gobi Desert, so you can go to Google Earth and here's the Gobi Desert. And
Mhm.
then the other thing is, a lot of his books are in Internet Archive. So if we're quoting from a letter or from one of his books, you just click on the quote. You don't get a footnote. You get the quote. You get the book open to the page that the quote comes from, you know.
Yeah.
I wanted to work that kind of technology into it. So, and that's how I got it. And then I'm starting now to meet up with Teilhard folks like the Guanachas, whom you know. That's where I met you.
Yeah.
They're, and so it's, well, Teilhard, he saw mystically, he saw scientifically.
Mm.
There was in the church that he grew up in, there was a story. It was on the walls, it was in the statues, it was in the hymns. My gosh, how much of our basic foundational story comes through music, hymns? And so there was a story that was revealed in that church.
Okay.
But outside the church, with his father, he was exploring the countryside. And there were extinct volcanoes. There's a story in that earth, too, had not yet been revealed. And his paleontology is digging into the earth and eventually, as I tell this story, extracts the story. And then he's trying to put the two stories together.
Mm.
The stories that he found in the sanctuary of the church, and the story that he dug up in the story of the earth, in the sanctuary that was the earth. And so that whole thing is that's how I got into Teilhard, and I'm just interested in this foundational story. People live, spiders spin a web and live their life on the web they spin. Humans spin a story and
Yeah.
live their life on the web they spin. And then sometimes the web breaks, and then what happens when
Yeah.
and there's and then if it's a new foundational story coming in, how does it get in? What happens with the old one?
Mm.
So
You've heard me say this quite often. It's really difficult for me to read Teilhard's stuff because it's
oh,
really,
it is. Oh, it is.
yeah, but it's because of your work and because of Frank's work that it helped me understand where he's coming from. And so I really thank you for that. And also hearing other people share their stories of how Teilhard has influenced them has helped me listen to, I listen to the tone beneath the breath.
There
And
you
so,
go. Yeah.
and so I understand his tone. I'm hearing what he's saying. And you've heard me say just, since the timing of this recording a few days ago, I feel home. I call what he said with when he talks about the cosmos, I
Yeah.
call that home.
There you go. Yeah.
And so I have really connected with that. Where are you connecting with Teilhard?
Well, let's see. He's an interesting person.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, the show's not about Teilhard, but Teilhard has shaped
no,
our
no,
lives
no.
so much.
What was
So,
it? What was it? Where was I going to go with that? I have a lot of it in some of those moments. There's one called Calm where it says the divine milieu, and there's about I got about 2 or 3 minutes of people crawling up a hill as we're hearing his words, and the individual journey is from matter to spirit, which is what he saw in the cosmos, and that's a connection that there's something what he called a current flowing through the cosmos, which carries us from matter to spirit, like the earth. One of the ways I think about it is I'm walking along a beach here by Lake Michigan. It's a big, long, sandy beach. There's forest on one side, a calm lake on the other. Beach goes on for miles. It's a still day. And all of a sudden, I hear some music. Where is
mm,
it coming from? And it's coming from the ground. So I get on my knees. Don't tell me how, but I find that it's coming from a single grain of sand.
mm,
How does a grain of sand start to sing, to tell stories? Well, the grain of sand is the earth, you know. So there's something, and then something about what's causing that, what's leading to it, which affects that whole beach and all those stars and galaxies. So the sense of that current running from matter to spirit I connect with. And then he described the life course in somewhat of the same way, climbing to the summit of the mountain and then caring for the earth as you're getting there because of what it is. I mean, this is an amazing place. Those are some of the points of connection. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you're right. The phenomenon of man, I mean, come on, how polysyllabic can you get? But what's amazing about the guy, and this is what I tried to get in the Earth book, he was an amazing, vivid, concrete travel writer in
Mm.
his letters. He would describe things so vividly. And then he was in the war as a stretcher bearer, the Great War, the First World War. And as a war correspondent, he could be so vivid and so concrete, just amazing. But then he also had this highly perceiving these patterns and then sometimes just making up names for what he was perceiving. But it's quite a just an interesting fellow, and he had a basic spirit that I can connect with, I guess.
Yeah. How do you, I think I've heard you and a couple others say this too about Teilhard, but in general, how do you paint a picture with your words about the spiritual relationship you're having with yourself and others and with the cosmos? Where do you find those words? You know what? And Teilhard was trying to grasp what he could. He was a scientific guy, so he was using science to define what he was experiencing. Where do you find your words?
Well, now we're kind of getting into what I can call a spirituality in my 80s,
Okay.
which is, yeah, spirituality. I'm 85, so born Catholic, raised Catholic. And um, just as a general comment, the spirituality is travel light. Don't tip over. But travel light means doctrine, dogma, creed, explanation. Just discard, 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 discard. Breathe. Breathe is a good metaphor for this. Just breathe, breathe spirit in, breathe spirit out. Trust the mystery, enter the mystery. And in the last couple of years, trust the mystery, And so, uh, so I suppose the spiritual connection, and this is, I suppose, broader Teilhard, is just like walking into the woods. Woods are not far from my home. I walk in and that's my church.
Yes.
You know, I do the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. And
Okay.
I do in the name of the Mother and the Daughter of the Holy Spirit, amen. And then I'm there, and
Mm.
Veni Creator Spiritus. And so it's kind of it's connect and then connecting with folks like you and some of the other Teilhardian people now that I'm meeting, just that sense of a common spirit, which isn't, there's not much to articulate.
Yeah, yeah. That I think that's one of the reasons why I want to connect with people in the breath, because no words are needed.
Breath is breath is a great metaphor. The so what I'm working on now majorly is well, maybe you folks or know about the Granachas and their oratorio.
Yes, yep, yep.
So the man is the orator is telling the story of the universe, and there's an orchestra and there's a chorus as he's telling it. And so what I'm working with them on now is making modules of this.
Okay.
So there's a set of, well, there'll be a set of, I don't know, 6 or 7 modules where he's telling the story. And then we get the choral response. And so now the main thing I'm doing is finding the images to go with it. So we will, as he's narrating, we will cut to some images. Okay. And then back out to some, and then and it's really interesting finding. Again, it's part of being in the 80s. The words don't do it for me. An image will. An image will sum up so much more than a bunch of words. So, but anyway, just yesterday, I made a substitution in the piece where the narrator is talking about the first flaring forth, beginning of it all, the flaring forth. Okay,
Okay.
also known as the Big Bang.
Okay.
Also known as cosmic inflation. I mean, there's a lot of words for what that is.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I in there, I had found an image of a balloon with kind of like a sort of like a James Webb picture inside of it. I'm thinking cosmic inflation. That's pretty cool. But it didn't quite work for Sam. So now what I have is he talks about the first flaring forth, and all we see is a dandelion against black and seeds being blown off it. And so I hope we're going with the metaphor of not flaring forth, not big bang, not explosion, but the first breath.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
This is the breath. And
Yes.
then the narrator actually says breath later. And so just, if it's a 4.5 minute piece, if that does it, what was in that first breath, the mystery of this first breath, and then how do we live this mystery is the idea. But it was the breath. That was the
Yeah.
breath is now, we put breath in the beginning of everything.
You're right.
Talk
Right.
about a first memory, huh?
Yeah. It's our first memory and it's our final memory. And then it's everything in between.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I got that. I got
Yeah.
I got going black into darkness, as the guy's saying, the mystery of the first breath, something like that. So anyway,
Beautiful.
yeah, I think it's going to work.
Yeah. So you're 85.
Yeah,
I'm 49.
yeah.
If you can you take us back to what was your life like when you were in your 40s? Is there a lot of difference between then and now? And what was your spiritual process and everything?
Okay. Well, here I'm going to give you
It's
some.
a loaded question.
I have episodes here for you. I don't know. I don't know how much you have time for.
Yeah.
Okay. So my life has come out in fours.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Mine comes in threes.
Four. Okay. I was born on 4/4/1940.
Oh, wow. Okay.
4/4/40. My address at the time, 440 Elmwood. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
It's only every 11 years that all the numbers and the dates are the same, like 2/2/22, 3/3. Okay. Well, 4/4/44 was my fourth birthday.
Okay.
My most transitional year was for my 44th. Everything hit the fan at that time.
Mm.
Um, so I'm going to tell you another story.
Go
Okay.
ahead. I love your stories.
Okay. Um, yeah, no, so it was a marital separation. The Seasons of Life grant just came through.
Mm.
I was kind of living on my own. I knew what I was going to have to do. I was very busy, but spiritually. Anyway, I had made records of my mom and dad's stories. It was, gee, I'm doing these other people. What about them? And I got them on audio tape. My mom in 45 minutes, my dad in 8 hours. And then, so at one time in my 44th year, I replayed my dad's tape. And then there was this incident he described on it, which I didn't even know was there.
Okay.
It was the story of my grandfather,
Mm.
who was a musician in Hungary. And he came to this country around 1914 or something and tried to make it as a musician, but he was not able to. And instead, he went to shoveling coal for the utility company.
Okay.
Now, my dad said his whole soul was music.
Mm.
My dad never used expressions like whole soul. I mean,
Okay.
that's very unusual.
Yeah.
And it seems that once my grandfather made the transition to shoveling coal, he made it cold turkey.
Hmm.
It's the only way he could do it. And then my dad mentioned he might have been in a military band, and then there was this pair of white gloves that he had. And shoveling, his hands swelled up and he couldn't, they didn't fit anymore.
Hmm.
And so I picture these white gloves contrasting with the black coal dust that he was shoveling. And here's the guy who gave up his whole soul for his family.
Wow.
In my 44, listening to that tape, hearing the story of those gloves, I felt that those gloves were meant for me.
Hmm.
And in my imagination, I put them on. And I had the sense now that this ancestor, who I never knew, sacrificed, gave up his soul so that I could put on these white gloves. I'm
Wow.
not musical, but as I put on, the words were start fresh, stick to the soul, get going.
Hmm.
And so that was a real, you ask about my 44th year, that was a real connection there.
Wow.
So and I actually wrote my book on autobiographical memories called White Gloves.
Okay. Nice.
And you know what I think? What is this? What if I had the gloves?
Hmm. Yeah.
What if I had attached to the gloves my grandfather's voice?
Hmm.
You could do that today. You could, if you want to put stuff away, you could find autobiographical objects are another big thing. Some things that have meaning for you that you've hung on to, and the story that goes with them. Just put it online somehow and attach QR code or whatever, you could down the line, someone could touch the very thing and they could hear your story and your voice. Anyway,
Yeah.
but I can't do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was one, as I would say, as a kind of a defining sense. Just it was more of an energizing thing, not too much of a defining thing because I had so much that I was now going to be doing. Um, so I could go on.
Go. Well, I just wanted to say I understand the coal connection because I live where I've been born and raised in Pennsylvania. I live just south of the coal mining region of Pennsylvania. That's
Ah,
where blue coal came from as well.
mhm.
And those I don't know if I have any audience members who are old enough to remember the Shadow, the radio show, The Shadow.
Oh, my wife and I talk about it all the time.
Okay. And I know Blue Coal from Pennsylvania Mining Company sponsored that radio show. So I've heard different uh, shadow episodes, which is really really cool. So I understand the coal imagery is what I'm trying to get to.
Oh yeah, the black coal. Yeah, that
Yeah,
just the white and the black and
yeah.
this. Now, I don't know what this guy was like in real life. This is all myth.
Okay,
And autobiographical memory gets its power from its myth making. And that's pure myth. I mean, it's Cinderella's slipper. I mean, those gloves fit me and no one else.
okay,
That's a unique image
yeah,
for identity, something that fits me and nobody else. There it was.
yeah. Where do you see humanity going?
Sorry. I, I'm, I have to say, generally, I'm apprehensive at this point in time, but
Okay,
I know people have been apprehensive before. I know. Uh,
yeah,
so I don't know. I can't make a prediction at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Yep, cannot.
Who,
Sorry.
who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows?
exactly. Yeah, mystery. But hey, do the things that we do, make the connections that we want,
Yeah, yeah,
breathe.
yeah, yeah,
Actions happen.
yeah. Can you share one more story with before I get to our surprise question?
Okay, one more. Okay, I'll
Yeah, yeah,
I'll do this one.
yeah.
So this is in Japan, in Kyoto. It's in Daikakuji Temple. And there was a group there started by a businessman called the Future Generations Alliance Foundation. The guy in a successful businessman, guy in his 50s, and wanted to do something. And it had been going for a while. And so they had a gathering of a small group, and they invited a fellow named Dan McAdams and myself over to kind of present our generativity stuff, um, which we did. Um, but now this is a true moment here. Um, it's the end of like the second day, and it's a room. It's not that big. There's maybe 20 people sitting around this table, um, from mostly Japan, a couple from China. There's scholars, there's some journalists, media types. And then kind of in the back is, as I recall, kind of a row of benches with some young folks in it, just to watch, observing. And then there's the translator's booth. And so now it's been a long day. A lot of people have talked. And so then the discussion leader says, okay, it's like 6 o'clock. Says, well, let's see if there's any questions from the young people here. There were a couple of questions, and then I'm sure she was the tiniest person in the room. I learned her name later, Chia. And she just stands up and asks this question, and then comes over the translator, and the question is, Dr. Kotre, Dr. McAdams, can you teach us to be more compassionate?
Mm.
It had nothing to do with what we've been talking about, had nothing to do with generativity, totally unexpected. And I look at Dan, and Dan looks at me. Here we are in a house of compassion where they memorialized compassion,
Mm.
centuries worth, all of this wisdom embodied in this room on compassion. And we two guys are supposed to teach them how to be more compassionate. And then I finally stammered out something about how much hope her question had given me.
Mm.
And I don't know, I didn't think all of this at the time. And I don't know how much of I said at the time, but what that symbolized for me is virtue rising up in a new generation. In her, she was her, this little sprout, it was rising up, virtue just rising up in her. That's very hopeful. I had nothing to do, I didn't pass anything down. Nothing, no,
Mhm.
no legacy, no, someone probably did. But to see that virtue could rise up on its own was very moving to me. And it moves me in this way, even though I've written a couple books on legacy and what you're leaving behind and passing down. I don't think like that anymore. My thoughts are be a witness to what is rising up.
Okay.
Just see what is rising up. Your witness is like sunlight to that thing. And maybe you'll actually do something. It might be rising up in some young person, it might be rising up in a conversation, could be rising up in your head. But instead of passing down something, be a witness to what is rising up. And there's a lot to spot that's rising up. I putz around with flowers and stuff like that and plant seeds. And sometimes a flower just shows up.
Okay. Yeah.
The seed just came from some darn place,
Mhm.
but really pay attention in my 80s to what is rising up. That would be it. And that
Wow.
was kind of a moment that really
Yeah.
is a guiding moment, I would have to say.
Yeah. Beautiful. I don't know where this question's coming from. I wasn't planning on asking this, but I feel stirred to ask it.
Uh-oh.
And it kind of prompted with what you were saying. How do you want to be remembered?
Ah, it connects with this.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Mm,
And my thoughts are if someone wants to take my life and do something with it and make something of it and create something with it, go for it.
mm,
I don't care how much it relates to my life or not. Just create something with it. And legacies, if it's going to be a living legacy, that's
mm,
what's going to happen because the legacy is going to change and it'll grow. So if there's some piece, take it, you know. But I don't, I have no, my name is Ozymandias, King of Kings, if you know the poem.
I don't.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Share it. Please share it.
Shelley, yeah. Um, oh, I don't know the whole thing. I think there's a desert, and a guy's wandering in the desert. He
Okay.
comes across a statue, and the statue's all by itself broken down, and in the bottom it says, "My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, see mighty and despair." And then the last line is, "Around it, this desolate thing, this 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 statue is falling apart. It's nothing." Or as a guy told me after a talk I gave once, I'd build a statue to myself, but what about the pigeons? You know. Uh, but the idea is, I don't. I've asked people that question
Okay.
all the time.
I didn't know that. All right.
Sure, I don't. But and you see it asked all the time. But it's maybe you create something with it. But create your own thing with it. Yeah.
What's your biggest struggle?
Well, this is a whole different path through my life. Okay, entirely different path through my life. So it involves my wife, Kathy, who for suffers from literally unend. Get the phone, Kathy. Literally, oh, she did great. Literally unending migraine.
Mm,
Literally unending. So every day it builds up. She's in a dark room now. Uh, and we've been everywhere, tried everything, and uh, the pain builds up every day. And there's been a couple of times in the last couple of weeks where she can't even put her head on the pillow. It's been 30 years. So um, it's very formative. And so in a way, it's a struggle, but we've been at it so long, we've kind of, and the big struggle was you see the pain and you can't fix it. That's the thing you can't do. And I know I tried, well, okay, I'll be as empathic as I could be, feel the pain alongside her. That lasted about 3 days because it was incapacitating. And someone had to keep the boat afloat. So the work that I do in the next room, I mean, I'm in the next room right now. The work that I do is a way that something that I can enter and still be there as she needs me. And I don't leave her for more than a couple hours. So that's the struggle. But then this is see what's rising up. This woman thanks God every day for, in her words, his rich and abundant blessings. That's something to see.
yeah.
And it's real. So that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah, she's
Beautiful. John, thank you so much.
yeah,
This
good.
this this has
Good to
been
see
great.
you. Let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Do you mind closing with the breath with us and the audience?
Well,
A
tell
short
me how to
breath.
do this, sir.
Yeah.
I'd love
So
to.
it's just a short meditation.
Hmm.
We just breathe in the moment together,
Hmm.
and then I will close it out. I'll say a few words to bring us back together, so you know what. So we're finished. So If yeah, let's just take a moment and just breathe together in the stillness and the sacredness of life. We are grateful for the moments of life, and every moment is sacred. And as we open our eyes and come back together, we bring this stillness and this sacredness to every part of our life. John, thank you so much. It's been an honor.
I'll bring it into the next room.
There you go. There you go.
Thank you.
This has been a Pneuma conversation. Thank you for sharing in the breath. Together, we've remembered a little more of what it means to be human. Until next time, breathe. Thank you, John.